Oh, it's a Lamborghini SUV. Oh, it's got too much in common with other VAG group cars. Oh, what have they done? They've diluted the brand. Where's the exclusivity? Truth be told, listening to the self-proclaimed purist is never going to be the best idea for business. We've seen something similar happen with the Porsche Cayenne as well, and that went on to be one of the best decisions that the brand ever made. But the concerns around this aren't entirely unfounded. After all, before the name Urus comes Lamborghini, a name that embodies excitement, a name that's always been about doing things that are over the top, a name that's become synonymous with the term supercar, but was created quite literally as an act of revenge. So is this all of that? Does this have that spirit? Is this a Lamborghini with a little bit of sense sprinkled into it? Or is this just a sensible SUV that happens to have the raging bull on its nose?
But before we carry on, don't forget to subscribe and click the little bell to stay notified.
Well, on the outside, it certainly looks like they're off to the right start. After all, I've seen a lot of comments calling this a hopped-up Huracan, and I can definitely see some of those elements. And it's not just the aggressive front that makes it a Lamborghini, no. It's not even those big intakes that seem to have been borrowed from a Sea Harrier. It's not even those gigantic 23-inch wheels, which I think are roughly the same size as my house in Mumbai, or these aggressive contours along the side, or the fact that the doors are frameless, no. No, it's not even that tail light. I mean, just look at that. It looks like a derivation from the Lamborghini Veneno. And then you've got that chunky body panel before it goes into those quad tailpipes. No, none of this is what makes the Urus a Lamborghini. It is the fact that this, the production-ready Urus, looks wilder, more over the top, and louder than the concept car it's based on. They flipped the natural order of car design. How Lamborghini is that?
And the madness continues inside. Before I say anything more, just take a breath and look at it. Every time you get into the driver's seat, the cabin welcomes you with a wacky mix of hexagons, octagons, shapes that take form in the AC vents, cup holders, horn pad, instrument cluster, and even the screen graphics. Speaking of which, we can't say with absolute certainty if an actual jet has screens like this, but a childhood enriched by SWAT cats has me convinced that this is what a cockpit feels like. The graphics and animations do exactly what a supercar should, make you feel like a joyfully squealing kid. Be it the instrument cluster or the dual center screens, they have a sense of occasion when you use them. But before you accuse us of swooning just because it's a Lambo, a reminder that we aren't disconnected with reality. Yes, there are many bits here that make the Urus feel less bespoke. The dual center screens look like a direct lift from the new Audi A8. Its steering wheel feels familiar to grip if you've been in the Audi RS5, while the steering buttons and the instrument cluster's layout are similar to what we've seen even in the Audi A4. The fact is, you don't have to look hard to see where Ingolstadt has entered Sant'Agata Bolognese. Forgivable, of course, because that doesn't change the fact that the cabin is very Lambo. Just look at those jet thruster-like Anima and Ego selectors. If you wanted a cabin that makes you feel stupidly excited like a kid, the Urus delivers. And as the cabin turned me into a kid, the one thing I couldn't wait to do is lift the red lid and press the pretty button.
Now, every time you open up the brochure of a fancy car like this one, you're going to have a lot of facts and figures thrown at your face. So let's get that stuff out of the way first. So for the first time ever in a Lamborghini, you've got not a V12, not a V10. This is their first twin turbocharged V8, and it isn't mid-engined either. It sits right up ahead of me underneath the bonnet like in a regular car. Super. So facts and figures time. Power 650 PS, torque 850 Nm, transmission 8-speed automatic that drives the power to all four wheels, helping the Urus get up from 0 to 100 km an hour in 3.6 seconds. Now, just for reference, that is the same territory as an Aston Martin Vantage, or not too far off from a Lamborghini Huracan either. But something's fishy about that. I mean, come on, these are just statements, right? They're facts and figures. When I flow this, it's not like it's going to feel that kind of exhilarating performance. Okay, that wasn't right. The Urus has no business feeling the way it does. I mean, this thing weighs whereabouts of 2.2 tons, but it doesn't feel bogged down. And if you push it just about maybe 2 or 3 inches down on the throttle, down to sport mode, and you have to stretch out your sentences, because you really need to focus. Otherwise, this thing's gonna make you pay. It's really amazing. I mean, this thing's so heavy, but it's not like the engine is working to move past that weight and then make the performance exhilarating. No, it's exhilarating from the get-go. The second you go near the throttle, it's just explosions, dragons. It's absolute madness.
Of course, since this is a road review, it isn't possible to see if it'll hit its claimed top speed of 305 kilometers an hour, which, by the way, makes the Urus the fastest SUV in the world. But it takes a mere few kilometers to make you believe that she's capable and willing.
And then you have that beautiful exhaust note. I mean, sure, it doesn't have a V10 or a V12, but I mean, when has V8 been a bad thing? Only thing is, it doesn't sound all that raw, if you know what I mean. It does feel a bit synthetic, but let me put it this way. Most modern day artists, they use a lot of autotune and a lot of editing as well. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to like Kendrick Lamar, are you? I think we're going to be alright. Now, if you're looking at just straight line performance, you can even get that from American Muscle. Why do you need a supercar brand for that? Well, you do once you factor in handling. And again, I know, when you think of handling, SUV is not the first body style that comes to mind. But in the Urus, you can feel all that tech jargon coming to work. It's the air suspension with the adaptive dampers, the active torque vectoring, photosynthesis, all those terminologies come together to really make this thing work. Now, we haven't had a lot of opportunities to really test the Urus's handling, but say for example, if you're going in through a hard corner like this one, or if you're going at quick lane switchbacks, the dampers just come into their own. You feel practically no body roll whatsoever. And even the steering, it's quick and responsive, but at the same time, it does feel a bit Audi-esque. What I mean by that is that yes, you are getting that feel and responsiveness, but it doesn't feel all that unfiltered. It feels like there is definitely some electronic assistance.
But you do get the bragging rights of not just driving a Lambo, but getting tech from the flagship. Like the Aventador, the Urus gets rear wheel steering, so at low speeds, turns are made tighter as the rear wheels move in the opposite direction as the front, and at high speeds it does the opposite. So it's sort of elongating the wheelbase, making high speed turns sharper but also more stable.
But once you decide to take things down a notch, and instead of pushing this raging bull, you decide to take it, well, grazing, it becomes a completely different animal. The throttle response doesn't feel too jerky or antsy, and it's not looking to turn everything up to 11 all the time. The transmission, the gear changes aren't all that jerky. The exhaust note, it's not constantly loud or screamy.
A major surprise though is the ride. While our drive took the Urus through mostly well-paved roads, a few rough patches showed that even with the optional 23-inch wheels, it's comfortable. The ride isn't jittery or too stiff, even in sport mode. That said, potholes will still have to be taken with care, and this isn't a machine meant for roughhousing. Driving this, you're also reminded that the Urus is a super sport UV, not a Luxo barge. The damping works well over most roads, but it's not out-and-out plush. Small imperfections will filter into the cabin, reminding you that the Urus knows where its priorities lie. Even the rear seat is excellent. There's adequate space for a 6-footer to sit behind another, while you get creature comforts like an armrest with cup holders, rear climate control, and two 12-volt power sockets. But unlike say a Range Rover Sport SVR, the Urus feels like a sports car adapted for usability, not a luxury car that's been given sporting pedigree. The tall window line and sloping roof remind you that this is no lounge, and the Urus's pleasure lies in the driver's seat. That said, this SUV scores big on practicality. The 616-litre boot makes it weekend road trip friendly. It's great to have the family, you and the luggage all in one place. After all, coming together and asking everyone else on the road to kindly eat your dust makes for a great bonding activity.
So let's cut to the chase. Supercars are no longer unusable even in a country like India. Even something like a Huracan can be driven daily, so the supercar experience itself has been made more approachable. What the Urus does is take that practicality to the next level. Yes, it isn't as bespoke as its two-seater siblings, but it sure as hell has that wild, wild DNA.